Breaking news. A nation once untouchable is trembling. For nearly a century, America led the world in power, wealth, and belief. Its dollar ruled the markets. Its flag shadowed every ocean. Its voice silenced its rivals. But tonight, that voice carries a warning instead of victory. Donald Trump, the man who once declared America's comeback, is now sounding the alarm. His words echoed across a packed rally hall. "We're losing control of the world." It wasn't a slogan. It was a confession. The crowd cheered, but not because they were inspired. They cheered because deep down, they knew it was true. America's dominance, the very identity of its empire, is slipping. Factories once humming in Detroit and Ohio now stand hollow. Allies that once begged for protection are forming their own armies. And the dollar, the world's lifeline, is being challenged by new currencies in the East. Trump's words weren't just politics, they were prophecy. Because every empire falls the same way, first slowly, then all at once. And what makes this moment terrifying is that America doesn't see it happening. The media mocks it, the markets ignore it. But outside the US, in Beijing, in Moscow, in Riyadh, the new world is already being built. This isn't just a story about power. It's about silence, the kind that comes before something enormous breaks. Because when Trump warns that America is losing control, it's not fear-mongering, it's foreshadowing. The world is changing, and this time, the empire might not be invited. To understand Trump's warning, you have to go back to when America's control began. After World War II, Washington became the architect of the modern world. It built institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. It printed the dollar that every other nation trusted, and it created a global system, trade, finance, military, where everything pointed back to one center, the United States. From Wall Street to Silicon Valley, America became not just a country, but an idea, a belief that freedom and capitalism were the same thing. And for decades, that illusion worked. The U.S. could print money without consequence. It could fight wars without fear. It could consume endlessly, while others produced. But the problem with being the center of everything is that eventually, everyone wants out. The cracks began with the oil shocks of the 70s, deepened in Iraq and Afghanistan, and exploded after the 2008 crash. Each event chipped away at the illusion of control. Each one exposed a truth the U.S. refused to admit: that dominance isn't destiny, it's debt. Meanwhile, other nations learned. China built its factories. India built its workforce. Russia built its resilience. And while America debated culture wars on television, the rest of the world was building power in silence. Trump saw it happening long before most politicians did. He didn't invent the decline. He exposed it. When he shouted, "America first," it wasn't just populism. It was panic. A desperate attempt to rebuild control before it slipped completely. Because Trump understood something Washington ignored. Power isn't about who shouts the loudest. It's about who still gets heard. And these days, the world isn't listening to America the way it used to. For decades, the world revolved around Washington. But now, there's a new axis of power, one that doesn't ask for permission. The BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, once seen as an economic club, is evolving into a geopolitical empire. Together, they control 40% of the world's population and most of its energy reserves. And in 2024, they took their boldest step yet, creating a new trade currency backed by gold, a direct strike at the US dollar. It's not just trade, it's rebellion. A new world built to live without American control. As Trump warned, this is the moment America feared for decades, the birth of a rival system strong enough to compete. The White House calls it global rebalancing, but Wall Street has another word for it: de-dollarization. Nations from the Middle East to South America are ditching the dollar in favor of local currencies and Chinese trade agreements. For the first time since the 1940s, America's control over global finance is slipping, quietly, mathematically, irreversibly. And yet, inside Washington, the narrative is denial. More sanctions, more spending, more attempts to control a world that no longer wants to be controlled. Because when power becomes habit, decline feels impossible. Until it isn't. Every chart about inflation, every headline about the dollar, every political speech hides a human story. In Indiana, workers who once built aircraft engines now drive for delivery apps. In Pennsylvania, steel towns that powered America's rise are ghost cities of broken windows and forgotten flags. For decades, Americans were told that globalization was the price of progress. But the progress was exported, and the price stayed home. Trump's rallies became therapy sessions for the abandoned middle class. People who believed in the system, worked for it, and were left behind by it. And here's the truth that no politician dares say. Losing global control doesn't just mean losing influence abroad. It means losing stability at home. When factories move overseas, your economy turns into speculation. When your allies stop listening, your diplomacy turns into noise. And when your citizens stop believing, your democracy turns into theater. Trump's warning isn't just about geopolitics, it's about survival. Because once a nation stops producing, it stops pretending. Something extraordinary is happening. Quietly, strategically, irreversibly. While Washington debates budgets and slogans, the rest of the planet is building something new. In Beijing, cranes rise over ports funded by China's Belt and Road Initiative, connecting 70 nations from Asia to Europe. In Moscow, energy deals are signed in rubles and yen, bypassing the US altogether. In Dubai and Riyadh, oil contracts are now written without a single American bank involved. What Trump called the realignment of power is no longer theory. It's happening in real time, on maps, in currencies, in alliances. For the first time since 1945, the world is building an order where America is optional. The U.S. used to export influence. Now it exports debt. It used to protect markets. Now it polices them. It used to inspire. Now it warns. Meanwhile, emerging economies are creating trade corridors without the dollar. Their banks talk about sovereign payment networks. Their leaders talk about post-American century. And when Trump says we're losing control, he isn't talking about politics. He's talking about mathematics. the numbers that no speech can spin. Because power in the 21st century is no longer about missiles or armies. It's about who controls the flow of money, minerals, and memory. Inside Washington, the official response is denial, wrapped in patriotism. Speeches promise strength, charts promise growth. But behind closed doors, officials see the same trend lines the rest of the world does, and they're terrified. A classified State Department brief from 2025 admits it plainly. U.S. economic influence is declining in regions previously considered secure. In response, the Pentagon adds bases in the Pacific, NATO expands eastward, and the Treasury prints another trillion to stabilize confidence. But each move feels like a reflex, not a strategy. Because you can fortify borders, but you can't fortify belief. Across Europe, leaders openly question America's judgment. France talks about strategic autonomy. Germany signs energy contracts with China. Even Britain, America's closest ally, flirts with economic independence. This isn't anti-American sentiment, it's self-preservation. When the captain loses the map, the crew starts looking for a new ship. Trump warned that this day would come, when the West itself would fracture from within. And now, as currencies diverge and politics polarize, the fractures are visible from space. The most dangerous part of decline isn't the fall, it's the refusal to believe it's happening. Then, a shock. Leaked documents from an international summit revealed that Saudi Arabia, America's longtime oil partner, plans to join the BRICS currency system within months. That means the petrodollar, the foundation of U.S. economic power since the 1970s, is finished. For half a century, every barrel of oil sold in dollars kept America in control. Now, those barrels will be sold in yen and rupees. It's not just money, it's a transfer of power. Trump's warning suddenly feels prophetic. He once said, "The minute oil isn't in dollars, we lose the game." That minute just arrived. Markets panic. The dollar plunges 3%. Gold soars to record levels. And on social media, the hashtag #PostDollarWorld trends in over 40 countries. For most Americans, it feels abstract. But for the rest of the world, it's Liberation Day. Because when empires lose their currency, they lose their voice. And when they lose their voice, they start screaming. The sun still sets over the Capitol. The anthem still plays. But something beneath those symbols have shifted, subtly, irreversibly. America is still powerful, but it's no longer alone in the room. And the world it once commanded is now learning to speak without permission. Trump's warning wasn't about fear, it was about recognition. That control is not a right, it's a rental. Empires don't collapse in a single night. They erode in broad daylight, while everyone is still applauding. Maybe that's the final lesson for America, and for us all. That control isn't lost when you fall. It's lost when you stop listening. The world has heard America's warning. Now America must listen to the world. Subscribe and stay alert, because this isn't just news, it's history in motion, and the next shift has already begun.